Yarji Jimbor Zodan Yumijan, Zoner Monum Jimbor, Nadiata, Takar Tarangam Santo Shirmerdo, Tomba Tuchi Chanla, Gijam Sar, Major Sering Jangams, Jawar to give Shirley alarm. Jimmeban Zojala Florande, Computo Bump, Roshingielo.
To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the Supreme Bodhicitta. We are currently discussing mindfulness and awareness in Chapter 5. The methods for maintaining mindfulness are explained in 3 aspects: the methods of maintaining it, the causes for its arising, and the results of maintaining it. In the last class, I think I talked a lot about the methods of maintaining mindfulness. There were things I wanted to share, but sometimes I didn't express them clearly. Actually, this is a very important topic. Even though I understood, I didn't make it clear. So I wasn't satisfied with my explanations yesterday. In any case, I hope you will read the text carefully. First, you need to understand the actual meaning of the verses and then analyze them further, which is quite important. Now let's talk about the causes for the arising of mindfulness. When it comes to mindfulness, as practitioners, we all agree that mindfulness is extremely important for us. Since it's so important, we hope that it will always arise and never fade away. So, what methods are there? Many people are probably concerned about this. There are 2 aspects for its arising: the external conditions and the internal causes. First, let's talk about the external conditions for the arising of mindfulness. From keeping company with a master, instruction from the abbot, and fear, those who have fortune and respect develop mindfulness easily. So in the verse it says, if we want to truly develop mindfulness in our own mind stream, we need to meet certain conditions. First, we need to rely on our master, not just for a day or 2 or a month or 2, but over a long period of time, with sincere respect, pleasing and serving them in the 3 traditional ways. Strictly speaking, here, master refers to someone who meets the qualifications mentioned in some shastras. They should possess bodhicitta and mindfulness and awareness and be well versed in all Mahayana teachings. You should rely on such masters. The longer, the better. Some commentaries say 12 years, some say more than 10 years. In any case, if you only rely on a teacher for a day or 2, such a short period will not bring you much benefit. Also, we need an abbot. Here, abbot refers to the preceptor. We know in the Hinayana tradition there are those who transmit precepts, such as the novice vows for monks and nuns, or the bhikshu and bhikshuni vows, or the lay vows. So whether it's the teacher, the master, or the preceptor, we must rely on their instructions. We should frequently request teachings from these teachers. Of course, there are exceptions, like Jetsun Milarepa's reliance on his teacher, or in some cases, the teacher may not give Dharma teachings, but through their physical gestures or blessings, they immediately bring the disciple to realization. Such cases are rare, but they do exist in history. But in general, especially in this age of Dharma decline, such teachers are not easy to find. Sometimes when looking at history, whether in Tibetan Buddhism or Han Buddhism, it seems that our times are becoming more and more degenerate. Because when we look at history in Tibetan Buddhism, there used to be thousands upon thousands of great accomplished masters and tertons, each more remarkable and renowned than the last. And in the history of Han Buddhism as well, whether in the Chan school or the Pure Land school, there have been great patriarchs with extraordinary discipline, realization, and meditative concentration. Of course, even today there are still many outstanding teachers in both Tibetan and Han Buddhism. By comparison, it is now quite difficult to find as many great masters as there were in the past, such as Jetsun Milarepa, Naropa, and omniscient Longchenpa. So, as ordinary disciples, when we rely on a teacher, we should examine him or her based on scriptural teachings and reasoning. This is the safest approach and carries no risk. As teachers, they should transmit the Dharma in various ways, passing the teachings on to future generations so that those who follow will surely benefit. If the teachers themselves have no realization, some students now claim, this is my teacher. They spend all day doing things for their teacher, fetching water, cooking, driving, dedicating their body, speech, and mind entirely to the teacher. Of course, serving the teacher in this way is a very good thing, but does it really bring real benefit to the disciple's liberation? This is something that needs to be considered. Of course, it definitely plants virtuous roots in their minds. But the key point is, if they have not received any instructions that transform the mind, all the things they did before only brought a small amount of merit. Once their teacher is gone, how can they transform their afflictions onto the path and face their own death? I have encountered some who have relied on a teacher for 5 years, but the teacher never encouraged them to study or practice any Dharma, and all they ever did was serve the teacher. There was never any conflict between teacher and disciple, which is quite nice. But is this kind of relationship the same as the reliance described in Buddhism? Is there a difference? I hope you will reflect and observe carefully. So as practitioners, especially those studying Mahayana Buddhism, first of all, the most crucial thing is to rely on a teacher who possesses skillful means and is well versed in all the sutras and tantras. The teacher should also often give teachings through skillful methods. This is extremely important. And disciples should have a sense of awe and respect toward the teacher. Such fortunate ones, disciples with such respect, can always remain mindful and will not lose their mindfulness. If the disciple lacks a sense of awe toward the teacher sometimes, after relying on the teacher for a long time, they may start to treat the teacher as just an ordinary person, like a good friend, a boss, or a supervisor. Well, looking at it this way does have some benefits, but generally speaking, toward the teacher, the more respect we have, the more we feel a sense of awe. In fact, we should be respectful because we gain all the virtues of body, speech, and mind through our teacher. And generally speaking, a disciple cannot surpass the teacher in terms of qualities, power, compassion, and wisdom. So there is no reason not to be respectful. On the other hand, just respect alone is not enough. We should also have a sense of awe toward the teacher, fearing displeasing the teacher or offending the teacher, or fearing that the teacher will not accept us or will abandon us. As disciples, we should be mindful of these things because all our virtues arise from this mind of respect. In fact, all Dharma practice is accomplished through relying on the teacher. In the Prajnaparamita Sutras, the Buddha said, all Dharma depends on the spiritual teacher. This is what the Buddha, the supreme source of all virtue, has taught us. All Dharma teachings rely entirely on the spiritual teacher. This is taught by the supreme source of virtue, the Buddha. So there is no doubt at all. It is absolutely certain. Therefore, as a genuine practitioner, you should first know about the teacher's qualities, then try to generate a sense of respect and awe in your own mind. In this way, you will have mindfulness. Otherwise, if you treat your teacher as just an ordinary person, as His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche often said, if you see the teacher as an ordinary person, you will not receive their blessings at all. As practitioners, all the virtues in our own mind stream are generated through the teacher's blessings. So, as disciples, if there is no sense of awe or respect at all, if there is no sense of shame, just like a stone, there is no feeling at all, such an attitude is not appropriate. Nowadays, in some Western Dharma centers and other places, some students treat the teacher as just an ordinary friend. For example, when I am giving the Dharma teachings to the audience today, if I teach well, everyone accepts it. If I don't teach well, they may immediately raise their hands, you didn't teach well, you're not qualified. Of course, if we are having a discussion, this is understandable. Given the openness in the West, it can be considered reasonable. But from the perspective of the dignity of the Dharma, this is not appropriate. Dharma can only be obtained through your own respect. If there is no respect for disciples like Devadatta, who were in Buddha Shakyamuni's presence directly, they could not truly receive any benefit. This is something we know well. So we must keep in mind that realization is only obtained through the blessings of our gurus. So we need to rely on spiritual teachers for a long time, then the virtues, especially mindfulness, will arise easily. Of course, for students in big cities, it may be difficult to stay with a teacher for a long time. I think this is quite challenging because for people in big cities, it's hard for them to manage their life, work, and so on, if they go to a quiet place. And for a teacher to stay in the city and teach regularly, there are some who do this, but not many. So there are such difficulties in the process. How then should we rely on a teacher? I think nowadays science is so advanced that we can receive the Dharma teachings given by teachers in many different ways, even if the teacher is not physically by your side. As long as you have faith and respect, the teacher is actually always present. You can receive teachings through various means. I think there isn't much difference from listening in person. So I really hope that you will listen to and study the recordings and CDs of teachings given by some teachers nowadays. Listen to them more, study them more, try to change your own mindset as much as possible. I don't mean to say that just because I am teaching this text now, I must recommend this text and urge you to study it more. That's not my intention. It's perfectly fine to follow the teachings of any teacher whose instructions are clear and suitable for your own mind stream. It's just that I personally have a special kind of faith in this text. Everyone has this experience. When you benefit from something, you naturally want to share it. For example, if someone really likes a certain dish, they will often recommend it to their best friends, saying, "You should try this, it's the best." They benefit from it and naturally want to recommend it to others. For example, I have great faith in the Bodhisattva because by relying on it, I have received indescribable benefits for my life. Although I haven't attained realization, nor do I have miraculous powers, I don't have any of that. Not to mention flying through the air, even jumping a little higher is impossible. It seems I'm getting older and older. When I was young, I could jump on the grasslands, but now it feels like my body is getting heavier. I have no miraculous powers, no ability to fly, none of that at all. But deep down, I can say my faith in Mahayana Buddhism will always be unwavering. So I gained benefit from this particular Dharma. It's natural to recommend it to others. If I study the Gelug school or the Sakya school or other traditions, or if I study Chan, I may encourage you to study the relevant text. Someone once asked me, the Han Buddhist teachers say Han Buddhism is great, don't study Tibetan Buddhism. And some Tibetan Buddhist teachers say Tibetan Buddhism is great, so which one is actually better? Han Buddhism also has many great accomplished masters and wonderful teachings. For those who are suited to Han Buddhism, that's very good. And for followers of Tibetan Buddhism, if they have gained benefit from Tibetan Buddhism, they will naturally encourage others to study those teachings. So I don't mean to ask you to only study our own tradition and not others. That's not what I'm saying, but I do hope that you realize how precious human life is, and this can only be understood after a long time of study. In this brief human life, we should do something meaningful, study the Dharma. This is my hope and aspiration for each and every one of you. Of course, which Dharma you choose, whatever suits you, there's nothing wrong with that. I just hope that you can study more, especially for those living in cities. In the past, it took great hardship to rely on a spiritual teacher for the Dharma, but now you can receive the teaching at your place. Every week, you can gather and study together. Every day, you can nourish yourself with Dharma through different means. Then, living in this world has great meaning. Therefore, in order to give rise to mindfulness in your mind, the first thing is not to leave your teacher. If you have the opportunity, don't leave your teacher easily while relying on them. Once you leave, at first you may feel, it's fine, I'm not by my teacher's side. I've already learned what I should, and I already know what I need to know. There will definitely be no problem if I go somewhere else. But as ordinary beings without long-term training, gradually it's very easy to be influenced by external circumstances. Although you may not see it, the teacher is always bestowing blessings and offers direct instructions to support your practice. And as teachers, we shouldn't think, if the disciple is unhappy, I shouldn't say anything. There's no need for that either. Patrul Rinpoche once told a story like this. In a place called Nyetang, there was a very remarkable Dharma teacher. His discipline was pure and his conduct embodied the Dharma. One day, while he was circumambulating a stupa, he happened to glance at the home of a novice monk. This novice was about to eat a meal in the afternoon. When he saw the teacher coming, he became a bit afraid, since novices are not supposed to eat after noon. He pretended to make the tsampa into a torma for the Dharma protectors. But the teacher immediately noticed this, so he showed a very displeased attitude and left. Then the teacher came a second time. This time, the novice didn't have time to hide his food. He was eating, taking big bites. The teacher again showed great displeasure and left. Afterwards, the novice felt uneasy. He thought, earlier I deceived my teacher, and today, just my luck, the teacher came again. So what should I do? He then went to his teacher's place. He went there quietly and saw that his teacher was heartbroken for him and was crying. So just like his teacher, in Tibetan Buddhism, some kept extremely pure discipline. After seeing this, the novice also felt, my teacher worries about me so much, I feel so ashamed. He then confessed and made vows in front of his teacher. Later, he became a highly respected and renowned master in history. So this story shows that some teachers may not say much, but through their expressions and actions, they still have a restraining effect on your improper behavior. So in terms of external conditions, first, we must not leave the teacher and rely on the teacher's instructions. If you truly want to give rise to mindfulness in your mind, the first cause is to rely on the teacher. Now, the second cause is the internal condition, to give rise to mindfulness through having a sense of shame and conscience. The verse says, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas see everywhere without obstruction. Therefore, I always am indeed within the presence of them all. Thinking thus conscientiously, respectfully, and fearfully, this verse is quite straightforward. It means that as Mahayana practitioners, if we wish to give rise to mindfulness in our own mind, the external condition is to be accepted by the teacher. And the internal condition is that we must always keep in mind that our compassionate Buddha, who has perfected the two accumulations of merit and wisdom, and the Bodhisattvas, who possess supreme qualities, they all possess the wisdom eye that perceives all things and all phenomena in the world as they are. It's like holding a mango fruit in the palm of your hand. They see all phenomena in the world completely and without exception. As practitioners, we must never think, my teacher doesn't know, the Buddha doesn't know. If I do something wrong behind others' backs, in a place where no one can see or hear, no one will ever know. We must never think this way, because the Buddha sees everything. The Buddha's wisdom can see completely and perfectly everything we do, all our thoughts, words, and deeds. It's like a blind person sitting in front of someone with sight doing something wrong. The blind person can't see, but the one with sight sees everything. We cannot perceive the inconceivable states of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but they can see everything we do, day and night. In the Pure Land teachings, it says, Buddha Amitabha perceives the thoughts of all sentient beings at all 6 times, day and night. Some may wonder, how is this possible with so many sentient beings? But it is possible. For example, if there is a full moon in the sky and there are 10,000 vessels of water on the ground, the moon can appear in each of them. Similarly, the Buddha's inconceivable wisdom can perceive the mind stream of each sentient being. So we should always keep this in mind. The Buddha said in the Jataka tales, we should not think that the noble ones cannot see us and commit negative actions recklessly. If we do commit negative actions, it's like taking poison. We will never be at ease. Meanwhile, the deities and yogis, with their pure wisdom eyes, will definitely see everything. Nothing is hidden from them. Therefore, our teacher, His Holiness, often used to say, some foolish people think, oh, if I do something bad behind others' backs, no one will see and no one will ever know. This is absolutely the wrong way to think. The Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and those with the divine eye, Dharma protectors, Dakinis, and all the Yidam deities, they all see our actions exactly as they are. Since they see everything as it is, as practitioners, we should act in accordance with the Dharma, being genuine inside and out. Sometimes when our afflictions are really strong and we fail to control them and act improperly, we should visualize the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of us and confess our faults. Otherwise, we cannot become very good practitioners. Didn't we just mention this? The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can see all our actions. There is no difference where we are. We are always right in front of them, always in their presence. So sometimes teachers take immediate actions when they see disciples act improperly. For example, there are cases when the Buddha saw the disciples were about to break precepts, and he then asked Manjushri and others to save them. There's also a story about the disciple of Jigme Lingpa. At that time, one of Jigme Lingpa's disciples went to a villager's house in Sershu. While he stayed there that night, he saw a woman in the house and developed a desire for her. Then, in the middle of the night, he could not sleep and generated all sorts of impure thoughts. He was about to act on these thoughts. He was preparing to approach her, and just at that moment, though miles apart, Jigme Lingpa suddenly woke up. "What is my disciple doing?" He uttered this loudly. Then he said, "Well, it's nothing. It's okay now," and went back to sleep. But what really happened on the disciple's side, just as the disciple was trying to approach the woman, the thing stacked above them collapsed. When it collapsed, his impure intention was not fulfilled. So this was actually his guru's blessing that protected him. There are stories like this. So some teachers do have miraculous powers, and they deliberately intervene to help when the conditions are right. But some students would say rashly, "Let's see if your miraculous powers can catch me. See if I broke a precept. Tell me clearly today." But as His Holiness said, even in the Buddha's time, he would not use miraculous powers to decide whether someone had broken the precepts. The Buddha wouldn't just use his powers to look and say, among the Sangha who has broken the precepts, and then expel all those who had and let the rest stay. This never happened. The Buddha clearly knew who had broken precepts, but he wouldn't reveal it unless others found out. So it's unreasonable to keep testing the teacher. If you don't believe me, use your 5 eyes, your unobstructed wisdom eye, to see if I broke a precept. Let's see if you have miraculous powers. As His Holiness said before, some truly great and remarkable masters definitely had miraculous powers. They certainly knew their disciples' every act and word, but some may not know everything. In any case, it is not reasonable for disciples to demand that all their actions be judged by the Guru's miraculous powers. So we should always maintain this attitude. The Guru knows, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas know, so I should not act otherwise. We should always have a sense of shame and conscience, a sense of shame and remorse, and a respectful mind toward the Guru and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Always remind ourselves, as a practitioner, I should not act in such a way in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I should not behave improperly. We should hold both awe and reverence. With this attitude, it will be easy for mindfulness to arise in our mind. Then our actions will be in accord with the Dharma. If you always keep this attitude, this virtue will arise naturally in you. In the Great Lion's Roar of Maitreya Sutra, the Buddha also said, some monastics think that in a hidden place, the Buddha cannot see and others cannot see, so they do things that are not in accord with the Dharma. But this is a mistaken way of thinking. At all times, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas perceive every action of all sentient beings. So in places where others cannot see, you should act even more in accord with the Dharma. So we should always keep in mind that the Guru and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are aware of everything. As practitioners, having a sense of shame is especially important. Mipham Rinpoche also repeatedly said that if someone has no sense of shame, then that person is completely hopeless. Some monastics even say, well, it doesn't matter. If I go to hell, so be it. If others know, so what? Don't cling too tightly to anything. But such an attitude isn't actually beneficial at all. Some teachings say this. Running naked through the public square, it's not especially terrifying. But if someone has no sense of shame, all their spiritual qualities are lost. Because someone who is mentally ill and runs naked, after a while, maybe after taking some medicine, there is a chance that they will later act properly and put on clothes again. But if someone has no sense of shame at all, no matter what others say, it doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter if others are displeased. They feel nothing whatsoever, saying, I don't care if I go to hell. If I break a precept, so what? It doesn't matter. Their mind really becomes like a block of wood. This mindset is not good. Having a sense of shame means that the person still has the hope to cultivate wisdom. So here we are instructed to bear in mind that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are fully aware of us. This is regarding our internal condition. Always keep in mind that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas know every thought of mine. Then mindfulness will easily arise in our own mind stream. This is the internal condition. So what are the results of maintaining mindfulness in this way? The recollection of the Buddha will then arise repeatedly. There are two aspects to this result. First, by relying on a spiritual friend with a sense of awe and respect, we are able to generate mindfulness. Then, by maintaining this mindfulness, we will recollect the Guru and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. When we think this way, it becomes very easy to repeatedly bring forth the recollection of the Buddha in our minds. It seems that this verse in Chinese is a little different from the Tibetan version. I didn't revise its Chinese this time, but basically it's fine. The meaning is that by relying on the above principles, both the external and internal conditions, the recollection of the Buddha will arise repeatedly in our minds. Why do we say this? From the perspective of external conditions, we rely on a spiritual teacher who is the emanation of the Buddha. From the perspective of internal conditions, we think, I can't do bad things. Otherwise, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can see all my negative actions. Then the virtue of recollection of the Buddha will arise in our mind. In terms of recollections, in the ornament of clear realization, when discussing the stages of the path, it explains 6 recollections: recollection of generosity, of discipline, of the Yidam deity, of the 3 jewels, and so forth. It's also mentioned in Letter to a Friend. So maintaining the 6 recollections is one of the greatest virtues in the world, especially when we recollect the Buddha. All the virtues of recollection of the Dharma and of the Sangha will naturally arise as well. The Buddha will always bestow blessings upon these practitioners. So if we often remain in a state of never forgetting the Buddha, always have a sense of gratitude, closeness, and respect for the Buddha, then all our words and actions will be blessed by the Buddha. When there is a sense of closeness and respect for the Buddha in our hearts, we will always live within the atmosphere of the Buddha's blessings. In this way, we will not encounter any adverse conditions. This is one benefit. Next, when mindfulness is stationed there to guard the gateway to the mind, awareness will then also come and return if it has departed. If we have all the above conditions, then not only will mindfulness arise in our minds, but awareness will also come to assist us. Why? Because we guard the gateway to our own mind. If the gateway to the mind is not well guarded, then all kinds of afflictive thieves and bandits will come at any time. Actually, they are always watching from outside, waiting to see if we have the gatekeeper of mindfulness. As we discussed yesterday, the mind without awareness is actually an afflictive mental state. I think I didn't explain this clearly yesterday. So, when we act carelessly with the 3 doors, body, speech, and mind, we are in the state of lack of awareness. The thief of lack of awareness can appear at any time. When His Holiness taught this text, he said, mindfulness is like a gatekeeper. If I don't have a gatekeeper outside, all sorts of people will constantly come in, so it is necessary to have a gatekeeper. As practitioners, we have accumulated so many virtuous treasures in our minds since beginningless time. These treasures are worth protecting, just as people protect their valuable possessions. These are the most precious things in our home. In some monasteries, there are antiques and old statues, and now they are all kept in safes. When people come to pay respects, they have to wait a long time for the key to the safe. Once, when we visited a monastery, there was a very famous statue, but later, the person with the key couldn't be found. The person with the key to the safe was missing. They hid the statue in the safe, afraid someone would steal it. In Thailand, there is a jade Buddha that is considered a national treasure. Day and night, there are always many soldiers guarding it. There are always guards outside with guns. When we visited, we saw this as well. They treat the Buddha statue, the national treasure, with such importance. So similarly, in each of our own minds, we have many treasures of discipline, meditative concentration, wisdom, and so on. So what should we use to protect them? We should use mindfulness to protect these treasures of virtue. Mindfulness is like a gatekeeper. If our mindfulness protects the treasures of our minds well, then awareness will also come. If mindfulness is gone, then awareness, which constantly observes the 3 doors, will also leave. But if we always maintain mindfulness in our minds, then awareness will always be present. So the relationship between awareness and mindfulness should be mutually supportive and inseparable. As long as there is mindfulness, we can also feel awareness is present. For example, if one always recollects the Buddha, then this person will definitely often observe their own three doors. If this person often observes their three doors, then they will also often recollect virtuous qualities. This will definitely be the case. So there is this kind of relationship between them. In this way, even if awareness leaves for a while, if it hasn't been observing the three doors, as long as there is mindfulness, it will return again. Some Dharma friends here want to leave, but because some of their close friends want to stay in the academy and don't want to leave, so they go out to visit other centers themselves, and when they find no better choice, they come back again. Then they try every way to persuade others. Let's go. I heard that place is really great, but don't tell anyone else. We must go there. I'll pay for your travel expenses, no problem. Some people are like this. This kind of situation does happen. So awareness and mindfulness have this kind of mutual relationship. We can see this through our own experience. When someone often observes their three doors, they definitely always recollect the Buddha and the three jewels. In the teachings of great masters, this is also taught. Throughout history, for all these practitioners and great accomplished masters, the most profound pith instruction in their practice is never to abandon mindfulness and awareness. No matter if it's Tibetan Buddhism or Han Buddhism, in any tradition, all the great masters, there are none who lack mindfulness and awareness. Some people practiced well and kept pure discipline, but later failed to persist, because the brake of mindfulness and awareness was gone. Without brakes, no matter how good your car is, in the end you can't control it, and it will crash. At that point, neither you nor others can do anything about it. So, for good practitioners in the past, whether when they accumulate wisdom in the beginning, increase it in the middle, or perfect it in the end, they all relied on mindfulness and awareness. That's why Shantideva also puts his palms together and urges us, if you want to protect your discipline, if you want to protect your mind, you must practice mindfulness and awareness. Never abandon mindfulness and awareness. Mindfulness and awareness are truly extremely important. Throughout history, there is no master who lacks mindfulness and awareness. A sincere practitioner will always observe themselves. His Holiness also shared stories about one of his classmates. In his biography, there was someone called Lama Thupa. At that time, the two of them left Sartar together and went to Sarshul to study. They also went together to pay respects to Mani Lama. When Lama Thupa returned to Sartar, he dug a cave near our academy and stayed there in retreat. Especially during the Cultural Revolution, when the situation was very severe, he stayed in retreat. Sometimes herders would secretly go to see him and notice that he was always observing his own mind stream. When he felt his own state of mind was pretty good, he would praise himself, saying, "You've practiced quite well." But sometimes he would start to beat himself harshly and criticize himself, saying, "You are really capable of generating all sorts of discursive thoughts. You are so capable of having improper states of mind. Why didn't you practice properly today?" Then he would slap himself. Later, His Holiness said, "My friend was not like the others. The two of us went far away to study together. When we returned, his practice was consistent from beginning to end. Throughout his life, he practiced genuinely and properly. I always think the stories shared by His Holiness are truly precious. Whether it's a story or a single teaching, we should always listen to them attentively in front of the teacher. Some practitioners have put in a lot of effort and gone through hardship to obtain these teachings. So I think I should share the Guru's experiences with you. There's no need for me to be reserved and keep them to myself. I hope that you will examine and reflect on yourselves with the teachings and stories of these teachers. In this way, you will receive great blessings and benefits. So mindfulness and awareness should never be abandoned. That is to say, with the attitude we just discussed, mindfulness and awareness will always be present. Next, we will discuss the methods for maintaining awareness, which are also divided into three aspects. First, we talk about the preliminary practices for awareness. In every moment, first of all, I must know if my mind is tainted, and at that time, I must be able to hold still like a block of wood. This instruction is about awareness. There is no need to explain the concept of awareness again. We should be clear about it. So whenever we do anything, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, in all our words and actions, we must first observe our own state of mind. Is our state of mind virtuous, non-virtuous, or neutral? If our state of mind is leading us to unwholesome actions, we should do our best to let it go. If we find the mind in a neutral state, see if we can transform it into virtue. If it is a virtuous one, we must carry it out. Observing the state of our mind is essential at the outset of any action. If we feel we do not want to do virtuous actions and are about to do something unwholesome, we should stop that mind. When negative thoughts connected with afflictions arise in our mind, if we fail to transform them, the results will be the ripened effect in the three lower realms. For example, if we act out of strong afflictions, if we kill out of anger, the ripened effect is rebirth in hell. If we kill out of desire, for example, for being's meat or for the furs, then this action leads to rebirth as a hungry ghost. If we kill out of ignorance with a deluded mind, then we are reborn as an animal. So every affliction has these three types of results corresponding to desire, anger, and ignorance. Once we know the harm, the inconceivable karmic consequences, we should stop our improper thoughts and actions. For example, if I am going to do something today, I should consider whether it will benefit myself and others. If there is no benefit, then definitely do not do it. His Holiness also said, for example, if you are going to the city today, you should first consider what your purpose is. If you are really going to benefit beings and spread the Dharma or give the Dharma teachings, then no matter what, if your initial motivation is in accord with the Dharma, you can decide to go. But if you think, Payatipaka, my purpose today is just to go watch TV or do something meaningless, if your mindset is like this, then you should tell yourself it's best not to go. You'd better sit quietly at home and not follow your mind. Our discursive thoughts are constantly changing from moment to moment. One moment we think about this, the next about that. And when these thoughts are dominating you, look at whether your motivation is virtuous or not. If it is virtuous, then no matter what, do your best to carry it out. If your motivation is not virtuous, you should immediately stop. Not everything that comes to mind needs to be acted upon, especially those negative thoughts. You must never follow them. Patrul Rinpoche also said this, right? As ordinary people, don't act on every passing thought. If we do so, those thoughts will bring endless trouble for ourselves. So we need to be very strict with ourselves. Check whether our thoughts are in accord with the Dharma or not. If they are not, do your best not to act on them. This is very important. Especially here, the verse says that once we know the mind is tainted, we should immediately and steadily hold firm like a tree. A tree, as we all know, is not easily moved by a gentle breeze. Our minds should be like a great tree or like a mountain king. It's best not to be swayed by our afflictions and all kinds of external temptations. Some people seem to lack a steady mind. If someone says, let's go somewhere else, let's go watch TV, they say, okay. Shall we go to karaoke? They say, yes, sure. They may go there without thinking it through at the time, but the negative consequences will gradually appear later. As practitioners, we should be prudent and shouldn't set our expectations for our practice too high. These days, some people really want to achieve realization very quickly, and if they don't, they swiftly change and go somewhere else. But realization is not that easy. If you want to get a university diploma, you can't get a real one in just a day or two or a month or two, except for fake diplomas. You can't get a real one so quickly. If you really want a fake diploma, it's possible if you get one through various means. But for yourself, it's really no use. I want to attain realization right away, and I want a teacher to stamp and certify me as enlightened. This person is already enlightened. What use is that? Even in worldly matters, fake certificates carry no meaning. In Buddhism as well, you should practice steadily and properly. In the end, you will definitely achieve something. This is not just my personal opinion. In fact, throughout history, so many practitioners have achieved realization through Buddhist practice. Especially nowadays, The teachings and pith instructions in Buddhism are highly valued by Westerners. This is clear for all of us to see. Year after year, more and more people are studying Eastern culture and Buddhist psychology. The reason is clear to us. Buddhist study of the mind truly has certain distinct advantages. When His Holiness visited America in the past, some PhDs there told him, in terms of external conditions and material development, such as city skyscrapers and buildings, houses and gardens, and the level of worldly development, Western countries do have their strengths and advantages. But in terms of inner cultivation, we don't compare to your Eastern culture. Their observation is quite reasonable. Now, many scholars and intellectuals recognize that there is an imbalance between Western and Eastern cultures. Where does this imbalance lie? It's that the balance between mind and matter has not yet been found. Buddhism is a central philosophy in Eastern culture, and the truth that Buddhism reveals is being experienced by many intellectuals and practitioners, both in China and abroad. Through their own practice, they have gained profound experiences, and some even attained uncommon realizations. For example, in terms of the bardo addressed in Buddhism, a number of Western researchers have authenticated the possibility of the existence of the bardo state by means of hypnosis and other techniques. That's why the instructions on the bardo are so well known in the West now, and so many people keep studying them. In general, they would not be likely to accept any knowledge of the mind in Buddhism if they had not truly experienced it in their hearts, or if they had not reached a real conclusion through observation. So we should recognize the value of these teachings, whether from Tibetan Buddhism or Buddhism in general. When we obtain this wish-fulfilling jewel, we should cherish it. Don't think every word and every sentence is just the same old thing. It's the same here, it's the same there. Actually, the content here is rich and diverse. Each verse has its own unique qualities and teachings. For every word and sentence, if you really explore and dig deeply, you will uncover its deeper meaning. By relying on these teachings, many of your doubts and problems can be resolved. So, as practitioners, we should not just skim the surface or focus on appearances. We should put effort and gain real benefit from these teachings. In this way, our lives will be truly fulfilling. Otherwise, no matter how beautiful the exterior may be, if inner emptiness isn't filled, nothing else will help, no matter how nice your clothes are or how luxurious your hotel is. If your heart is filled with pain, confusion, and sorrow, then you cannot experience any happiness. Even without these external conditions, if you truly realize the essence of the Dharma, then you have already experienced the bliss of the heavenly realm. Therefore, you should try to gain the essence of the Dharma teachings for yourself. Don't lose your good fortune and opportunity to study the Dharma. For example, 100 students are now studying this text. Those with faith and respect will find answers for their lives and gain real benefits. But those who have wrong views, not only will they not benefit from this text, but they may even create negative karma because of it. This can happen in any worldly field. For example, a scientist can use their experiment to bring great benefit to humanity and society, while those who lack wisdom may misuse it and end up harming themselves. Honestly, in the field of knowledge of the mind, no science or modern field can compare to Buddhism. Some people may think, is that really so? Look at how fast material development is now with all kinds of advanced scientific instruments and technology. Can Buddhism really compare with that? We do acknowledge that in terms of material aspects, its development and advancement are really astonishing. But when it comes to understanding the mind, what modern science and mainstream culture can offer is limited. They are still researching in this field. So there's no need for us to be afraid. Some might feel overwhelmed by all the advanced material achievements and think, maybe Buddhist teachings can't stand up to science. But really, there's no need for that kind of worry. When it comes to exploring the mind, past and future lives, and karma, science is almost completely blank. There's no deep knowledge about the mind. To fill this gap, they need to learn from Eastern culture, especially the knowledge found in Buddhism. So, as Buddhists, we should feel greatly honored to encounter these teachings. This is the result of our merit accumulated over many lifetimes. Now that we have this opportunity to study the Dharma, I hope you will not let it slip away. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Kirgana Jirano Chupan Chupun Sunen Droa
Bandangara Badma Sadarda Bandangara Badma Sada Bandangara Badma Sadarda